Hello, and welcome to Spectre Approved. Not your normal introduction today, because today I have an interview with the community manager of everything Legend of Dragoon. I've been following this person since the first time I read their name, basically. It was a part of something that I came across a long time ago called Severed Chains, and as you've already heard on the other episodes, it is how we played Legend of Dragoon. And so I would like to introduce you to Drew Universe.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Thank you for agreeing to come on here. So, when people hear community organizer, they usually picture like moderation of a sort. But what exactly does that role look like for a game like Legend of Dragoon?
Well, I've done some moderation. I think normally I see those as two separate roles, although, one person can obviously do both. I've moderated a lot over time, sometimes just to fill a void, but also make sure I'm good enough at it that I can, stay in it and help out with doing stuff like that. Whether it's making sure that, links in the subreddit sidebar are up to date and pointing to our other community stuff, or somebody doing spam posts, whatever the case may be on a given day. I don't do that as much these days because I have more help. We have a nice little mod team on Discord and Reddit, and it really helps. And our fandom is generally peaceful, so that's also a big help, I think. In terms of the community organizing, it always depends on the game, but anytime it's a game that it was simply released long ago on a console and never got any updates, it can definitely be challenging because you have no like official support. So I try to just do a little bit of everything, kind of at the parent level, if you will, like the entire fandom. I think that's what separates me from what I think more sane people normally do, where they just, they decide I'm going to help with the subreddit, or I'm going to run a Facebook group, and we're going to chat about it, and we're going to have a good time and reminisce and whatever. No, I have to be like seeing all of these things that could be like the potential of us, and kind of marrying all that together into one unified umbrella, if you will, because I think there is a lot of value in that as long as the game is big enough for it, and LoD certainly is. So
Absolutely.
a lot of standard stuff like we have a news feed for community news, and if there's any official news, we'll cover that as well. Resources, knowledge, events, whatever we can put together with no input from Sony. And it's surprisingly doable for a game as dense as LOD, even though it's just a linear single player story. There's a lot to cover. There ended up being a lot of extra information to find and share with everybody. Um, Lots of things that we got wrong about how the combat works, or certain things about the story that we can now like provide corrections and give a lot more deeper insights into how everything works. So thankfully, there's just been enough info out there, and our community, like the programmers in our community, being really good data miners, that have helped us learn so much, and then we can share that with everybody, and that's given us like a really good baseline altogether.
Nice. So it sounds like you do a lot. Is there anything that you spend a lot of time on that fans would never even notice?
Probably it's mostly research for me personally. Whether
Okay.
I'm looking up, I'm trying to find a random fact, or I'm looking for additional concept art, or I'm trying to find um, a quote that somebody supposedly said and trying to verify that. It always depends, but it's usually just, working on the next project before it's announced, or doing research and finding more information to share with the fans.
All right.
A lot of the time, it ends up leading to various really obscure rabbit holes. One time, I found a thumbnail image. It was like a screenshot of an interview in another language. I think it was Japanese. And it was only part of the interview. It was just this little screenshot, and it was so blurry, and we could barely make it out. And I was worried that like we would never find that interview like intact on the internet. But at some point later, I or somebody found the full interview, and it was so relieving because not only were we able to get the blurry text, we could see the full text now. It wasn't blurry anymore, but we got the full, complete interview, and we learned that at the end of it, some special materials were released. Like the public could download these materials. Sadly, the archive.org website, the snapshot of it on archive.org did not include those files, so those are still on the hunt list. One thing, the perfect way to explain this is the opening quotes in the opening intro sequence, if you remember. One mystery begets the next.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very familiar with those words. Well, that's really interesting. So what are you
Yeah.
hoping to find when you find these resources?
Well, sometimes you know what you're looking for. Like, I might be looking for a higher resolution image of a piece of concept art or promotional image or whatever the case may be. And like, I know there's one out there because I have a crappy version for some reason. I lost my old file or whatever the case may be. But in other cases, it's just like you don't know what there's going to be. Like, you can't possibly know. Um, you could be the master of, say, the Tailspin IP, whether it's the animated. I think I had an animated cartoon and a video game, and you could know everything about it, but you still wouldn't know that there were these really high res renders that were released on the press kit as part of like E3 or something like that. So you
Okay.
never know what's out there until you bother to go canvassing and think outside the box with your searches on a search engine, and you hope the search engine cooperates with you. Like, all these things have to line up just right, and it's all based on whether it's still online for the most part. Like, there's not a lot of in-person research you can do on this sort of thing.
Yeah, and with a game as old as this, that seems more, or rather less and less likely. So,
Yeah. So like categorically, sometimes I know what I'm going to be looking for. I'm hunting for more concept art. Today I'm looking for this or that, or I have a specific goal in mind that I set up for myself 5 months ago. Um, but in that, like, you still find stuff you wouldn't expect. I've done a lot of deep canvassing, and despite that, I completely missed this random set of images on like rpgfan.com or one of the other old websites. They did a they did an interview with Dennis Martin, I think, and I wasn't looking for it. I was looking for something else, and it led me to find um, render stills of the full motion videos. Like, there was a render still from when the Queen Fury crashes into the Phantom ship, and a few other ones, and they were in pretty decent resolution, like bigger than the game renders them at, and without all the JPEG artifacting. And I was like, holy crap! Here's suddenly like 5 or 6 extra render stills. That's great.
yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
I think the serendipity helps.
oh yeah, absolutely. And your description on not finding something that you're looking for just reminded me of one of the intros to Malcolm in the Middle, where uh, Hal is trying to fix a light bulb, and then he ends up working on the car, and it just long string of things where he kept finding new things to fix, and
Hmm.
eventually Lois comes in and is like, Hal, can you fix the light bulb in the closet? And he's like, what do you think I'm doing?
It's all connected.
Yeah, yeah. Jumping into the community as the community organizer, do you know what kind of players make up the core right now of the community?
If there's a core, it would be general players, general fans, where
Mm-hmm.
there's naturally a lot of overlap. Generally, like, they play the game. They might do some challenge-oriented stuff with mods or otherwise. They will replay the game despite, having played it 10 times before and knowing exactly what's going to happen. Uh, it could even be a ritual for them. Like, there's a lot of people who say they're doing their yearly playthrough coming up and all this stuff. And it's really impressive to see that. But it's mostly everybody, every kind of discipline really. It could be someone who is a generalist and kind of dabbles in everything, or just plays the game and not much else. It could be somebody who just does speed runs. It could be someone who is big on fan art, making fan art or fan music, for example. We have several of those in our community, and
Mm-hmm.
it all just blends together effortlessly, I feel like.
I'm sure that makes your job a whole hell of a lot easier too.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that the game, for all its flaws, like there's something to like about every part of the game, whether it's the story itself, the front of the story, or the backstory, the artwork in engine or with the FMVs and all the juicy renders we've been lucky to have outside of game, the musical soundtrack. Uh, it seems to hit people pretty hard.
Yeah.
So I think that no matter like what your main thing would be, if you have a main thing, LOD will have that for you. And if you like all of it, then you're just kind of taken by it.
Yeah, and I can attest that from my first time playing this game, it is set firmly in my top 10 favorite games of all time. Uh, from the get go, because everything about this game is just amazing, from the
Hmm.
soundtrack to the artwork to the gameplay to the story. Like it all just flows together so effortlessly, and it is definitely one of the better titles that Square Enix has put out.
I think you mean Sony.
Oh yeah, it was a Sony game, wasn't it? Oh,
Yeah, that
that's
was that
that's
was the
a
whole point.
yeah, that was a trip on my end. Jesus,
That's
I've
okay.
been yeah. I've played so many Square Enix games, they all run together,
Fair enough.
except for this one because it's Sony. Duh.
They started it of their own accord, but after FF7 came out, they and many other companies were inspired by FF7, and that kind of helped propel them to decide, oh, we're gonna expand this, we're gonna do more. But they always, Shuhei even clarified in a recent interview, like a year or two ago, I think it was on a YouTube interview, he said, we wanted to make this game, and I just find that super, honorable about him, that they weren't trying to, cash in on a craze. They were just inspired and wanted to do something about it.
Yeah, I feel that. Um, so concerning the Sever Chains mod, when you do have people that poke their head in, are there any people that stick around long term, or do you mostly have people just popping in for nostalgia?
It's kind of a mix. I mean, naturally, nostalgia is going to be a big draw for people. I mean, I revisit old games. Sometimes it's for nostalgia, although I try to divorce it a little bit because sometimes I just think it's really good, so I want to do it more. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you like a certain soft drink or type of food, you don't eat it once, do you? You keep going back to it as you should. And I think we can kind of blend that with the new potential that Severed Chains Port offers, where you can, yeah, you're reliving the game, but you also can increase the quality of life. You get some of that automatically with the fast loading times and the bug fixes, but you can also go further if you want, and it's really what you make of it. That's kind of the benefit of Severed Chains being an unofficial port, is everyone chooses which things to turn on or off, which mods to add in, and they can all have their own experience without having to compromise for the sake of the group.
Yeah, and because of its age, it's definitely not a live service game. But with Severed Chains, I can't really say that it is, because you guys are just doing things on the back burner because we're all in our 30s and we all have lives.
Yeah.
But so what are you guys doing to keep the momentum going with this?
Um, there's a lot. there's there's so much I could say. We've tried a lot of things, myself and others, over the years, and it's kind of like in a part of a way it's easy because retro gaming is obviously a bigger interest field these days. It's not just like, Game Boy Color era and N64 and PS1 era. It's, retro could be PS2, PS3 at this point. Um, and there's so much acceptance of that, and I think that's great. Um, so that part is easy. Like reliving past games, they just want to show up for that reason. Like I loved it as a kid, I want to play it again now, or I've been playing every year, like I said before. They'll tell us stuff like that, and then you know it's kind of up to them at that point because I could put on like a great first impression. I could have all my words for that day like without stumbling, but ultimately it's up to them whether they find any of that stuff interesting or all of it. Um, like regular community news, like anyone could say that's good, but is it actually gonna hold them? Like, are they super interested in the art events and all the mod stuff going on? Maybe not, and that's cool. There's other games that they like. Most people gravitate towards new games as well. Obviously, there's something to that. Of course, I love new games, so we just do what we can really, and it kind of having as much of a breadth as possible. We cover all the community news we can, whether it's spotlighting individual people who are working on cool things, group projects that we're doing together, things that have become core services like our website itself. Uh, there's so much stuff that we have, and it just depends on what people want and what they're specifically interested in. Like if they're doing a playthrough and they need a lot of help, maybe they'll like the wiki. The wiki is in a great state right now. We've got an in-house one, no ads, and we make sure the info is really accurate. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to learn more about the game, or you just need like a more encyclopedia-based walkthrough, you can have that. Um, if you really like mods, staying around to see all the mod news that's happening constantly is a great idea. We had this big explosion of it over the winter with I can't even remember all of it, but Legend of Tides, the fishing mod, was a huge release a few months back.
Yeah, Monoxide actually told us about that and mentioned something about like dynamic weapons possibly being in it. And that really made me want to jump back in and play it again because I love the idea of dynamic weapons in combat. Because if you're upgrading your weapon and they all have different names, I feel like there should be representation for that. And sometimes you can't get it to work. So
Yeah.
it was really pleasing to hear Monoxide say that there was something out there that could give me what I want. Um,
Yeah, it ended up being kind of funny because, any mod can be as diverse as it wants, obviously, but it just ended up being funny timing that weapon modding got expanded at just the right time so that Icarus, the main dev behind The Legend of Tides, could do more than just the fishing with like you do these, randomized additions basically, and you catch fish and the fish might heal you, or there's a magic attack item that actually, it's not a magic attack. It's a physical attack, if I remember correctly. There's just these onslaught of fish slamming down on the enemy using your physical stat. He could take it further and also make it be the first. The fishing mod is the first mod that has modern weapon modding capabilities. Like you wouldn't think to expect that. And as far as I know, it's the first mod that introduced crossover items from other IPs, like a lightsaber. So
oh,
it ended up being a lot of things all at once, despite it, the label on the front being fishing.
okay. So, what is something that you've tried that you thought would work but just didn't land at all? As far as, introducing a new mod concept or, it's something that you would do in your umbrella of work as the mod or community organizer.
So the only thing that really stands out right away would be a couple of events I tried to host a couple years back. Um, every so often, I try to run various events. It could be something I'm just thought of on my own, and it's going to be like an art event or a music event or just a multi-art event. It could be any discipline: music, art, fan fiction. And usually there would be some good turnaround. We get at least 5 or 6 pieces of art submissions, for example, and that tells me, oh, we should keep doing this. And obviously I make sure that the The posts are good. The posts are written well. There's usually an image attached because the social media algorithms like the image, and so it shows image posts to people more than just a text post. I try to keep all that in mind, but sometimes it still doesn't work out. There was a event I really wanted us to do, and there was only like one submission. I don't understand how that happened. Maybe it was just bad luck. Maybe it was that the post didn't land on the algorithm and some other random post got 100 or 300 reactions that day instead. I'm still not sure, but that happens sometimes. You can build something, an event or whatever that you think is really going to draw people in and be very exciting, and it would be. Any one of them, if they were presented, that would be like, yeah, I'd want to at least see those submissions, if not participate, if they're a fan artist. But it doesn't always swing that way, you know?
Yeah, we are all slaves to the algorithm. But on the flip side, what consistently does work?
Well, I would have to say the videos on our YouTube channel. Those go over pretty well. I produce almost all of them. We usually have done live streams in the past, which alternate between myself and Monoxide, the lead dev for Severed Chains. He would typically do the Severed Chains dev streams, which are like um, every Wednesday when it was happening regularly. He would explore some new concept in advance of the normal schedule, whether that was like um, modding in a new playable character and testing out if that could work. Um, a first person camera to see what it would be like to do additions in first person where you just see like the sword slashing in front of you kind of a thing.
Oh,
Um, that maybe that would introduce too much motion sickness because there are some somersaults in there, but it was a fun
oh.
experiment. It could be completely standard and planned for the future, or it could be completely wacky, and let's see if this works. There was a time when he was like, hey, how about a custom battlefield, but we just put in like one of the popular levels from Halo 2 multiplayer, and it just worked. you know um, in my case, I would usually do playthrough streams, usually with a specific flavor. The first flavor was when Severed Chains was brand new and it was just becoming playable. I was like, what if we did a playthrough, like a live stream series, and it was like it evolved with the development of Severed Chains. So like every week when we did another stream, I would download the latest build and it would have like a few more bug fixes. The graphics would look 5% better. One time we finally got the sound in and I was like, oh, hey, the sound's in. And then later, uh, you could actually do manual additions. They were just forced automatic for a while because the code wasn't in yet. And that was like the evolution of Severed Chains stream. And then after that, there'd usually be a flavor to it. I would also have Monoxide with me on several of those, so we could bounce off each other. It was so much fun. Um, there was a time when everybody was having a blast because I was controlling the characters, and I was playing the last Kraken. We didn't have music in yet, so I was manually playing Zeeg's theme for the battle against the last Kraken, make it a little more thematic. And I think just choosing that music is what screwed me over because it was a cosmically bad battle. There was some damage bugs. Using power up didn't power up my character for 3 turns. They were permanently powered down instead. It was bad. Um, I used a healing fog to try and heal Miranda, and it killed her.
Oh.
Yeah. So there were some things to work out in the early days, and that kind of sustained us for a while. But although we're still planning to do regular streams, and we have done a few here and there, but we need to get back to it. I'm trying to move us a little bit more on that ratio of actually having pre-recorded video uploads because there's a lot we want to tell people, and that's the algorithm shows more of that to people, I think. So, for example, I did the Legend of Tides mod showcase, the fan music mixes where like 6 or 7 different fan musicians will come together and submit mostly new audio tracks based on the LoD music. So we've done a feelings mix a couple years back that was based on just warm feelings and love and peace. And then at the start of this year, we did character themes, including what we would imagine themes would sound like for characters that don't have official themes. It was really, really wholesome to see.
That's really cool. Like,
Yeah.
Like and that just goes back to the community as a whole, and that's something that Monoxide touched on, was that just as a whole, the whole community is just great and laid back, and the main interest and everything that holds everyone together is Legend of Dragoon and their love for it.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the complete truth. It's not the this isn't the only game that has this effect on people, obviously, but
Yeah,
for its time, I think LoD is very much one of the standout games that it just, for whatever reason, and again, despite its flaws, it left this almost ideal, lasting impression in so many of us. As far as I know, most of us at the time were like roughly 10 to 12 years old. It was the case for me as well. Maybe we were just very impressionable. I don't know. But we keep coming back. Like I said, despite it being a linear single player story with no new content, there's something about this game that is like greater than just the sum of its parts, if you will. I'm not sure how to say that. There's something about it that is just built in such a way, and I think few games can do that so well, where
yeah,
they endure for decades. Like
yeah,
that means a lot.
yeah. I 100% agree with you.
There's
Um,
another game, if I
yeah,
can do a short tangent,
yeah, sure.
that really baffles me, and I don't know if it's just the gameplay loop is perfect. I don't know, but there's this arcade game I used to play in the actual physical arcades when that used to be a regular thing. I played Hydro Thunder, a boat racing game, and
Oh, geez. Yep, I'm
this
very familiar with that one.
oh, we may have to talk after this. So I don't necessarily consider myself a super fan, but it was one of my favorites in the arcades, and I was a kid, and that's all I knew for a long time. I would play, I think, the home version occasionally. That was it, but I didn't play for the longest time. And in my emulation ventures, wanting to revisit retro games, in like the late 2010s, and even all the way through to now, Hydro Thunder was on my list of like I want to revisit that. I just loved the sound of the voice announcer when you're choosing your boat and your track, and covering all of the messages during the race. Perfect voice work for that, and I just loved the whole thing. The visual style was fun. The feeling of the races felt really fast, and I've never really found that in another boat racing game. And so I enjoyed it. I'm playing it on an emulator, whatever. I found a small community on Discord. They had a small quality of life patch that one of the people made to make it a little bit better. Like there was this annoying thing where if you alt tabbed, because it only used exclusive full screen, if you alt tabbed, it would drop down to this tiny little window, and you couldn't remaximize it. And he patched that out, so you could alt tab and go back, and it would stay maximized. It was great. Like, so little things like that kept me interested more and more. I started looking into real life boat racing, and certain clips would just spark something inside me of like this internal thrill, I guess, or satisfaction. Maybe it's just to do with speed of racing in general. I also like racing games in general, but there's something about that game. And the reason I bring it up is because unlike LOD, which is super dense and there's a lot to it, the music, the backstory, all of it, I love just about every part of LOD. There's a lot to like there. It's super dense. It makes enough sense to me. But Hydro Thunder, there's almost nothing to that game. It is
No.
strictly you have the boats and you have the tracks that the boats race on, and there is a minor amount of progression in that, like you need to get the top 3 on the easy tracks to unlock the medium tracks and the medium class boats. But other than that, there is like no progression. It's just you, the boat, and the track. And there is nothing else for like, long-term replay value. You're racing on the exact same track. The only RNG is like maybe the NPC boats will move slightly differently, or you'll happen to get second place instead of first once in a while based on your skill level. There is nothing there. There is nothing special going on there. And yet I am drawn to that like a fly to a fly zapping lantern. I don't know. There's something really bizarre about like sometimes we know exactly why we're interested in something, but to anybody listening, if you can understand, maybe there are certain things that we are really drawn to and we just cannot explain why, but it is a like core truth nonetheless, and it's mystifying. It's so weird.
Yeah, and Hydro Thunder was definitely one of the arcade games that I always gravitated to when I was waiting for a movie to start at the theater. And I had
Yeah.
actually completely forgotten about that one until you mentioned it, so thank you for that.
Surprise.
So, when Severed Chains started gaining traction 5 years ago, did you notice any changes in the community, or were you just getting your legs under yourself, getting all this organization going?
There was some overlap for sure. I've done community service stuff for LoD since 2007, technically. Um, Started back, with as a kid on one of the forums. It was the GameWinners.com forums. Just a regular fan who said stupid crap on the forum, and then in 2007, I'm a fresh, naive 18-year-old kid just about done with high school, deciding, oh, I'm going to do this like YouTube campaign, and I'm so dumb, I'm going to call it a support group, which makes it sound like we need help. I can't just call it a community. Don't know what that is. And a lot of people came together. We had a Skype group. We maxed out the member count.
Oh,
There was a
wow.
time when I asked people to like write down their ideas, and like it was the only time I saw like 8 or 9 or 12 of the Skype pencils typing at once, because that was the Skype's version of when someone's typing a message. It didn't just say they're typing a message. You saw all these pencils animating, and that just did something to me. I was really excited that so many people wanted to share their thoughts, and that lasted for about half a year. I would stay in touch on LOD things, like I would visit the subreddit once in a while, but I didn't really get into it again and then permanently until 2016, 2017. And that's when I made the Discord server and I started asking dumb questions like, well, fan site B has these three pieces of concept art, but fan site A has one of the same and then two other ones. How am I supposed to know if I'm seeing all the concept art, basically? And so began my, stumbling forays into, the old web, whether it was just relic websites that were still up or archive.org or, you know, finding info on these official press discs that were issued at E3. And it just kind of was all an accident for a long time. And eventually I had to realize, oh, I'm a community organizer. Oh, I'm a researcher. Oh, I'm an archivist. Like, I had to face that as it happened over the course of a couple years, like going into 2018. And so that is when the like fandom stuff started to happen, like unifying the fandom, bringing it together, giving us our own home, our own website, and all of that slowly coming together was pretty cool. Eventually, Severed Chains came into the picture, and it started development in December of 2020, and then first became playable in like August or September of 2022. And yeah, it's been like 5 years. It was pretty rough at first, understandably, but it kept getting better and better. And when it came out, to more directly answer your question, that definitely brought in a lot of new people, because like you can do the best job in the world with like, taking what info you can find and putting it all in one place and telling people it's there, like the extra lore or the concept art images that we've never seen before. But at the end of the day, what draws people in the most is like something directly actionable and fun. And that's, like if they were to get a remake or a remaster from Sony, that would be their number one draw, obviously. So the next best thing, since we don't have that, is the unofficial port. And it's drawn in so many people. We got like some random coverage from PC Gamer, I believe. They messaged us suddenly, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm suddenly doing an interview with zero advance notice. Like, I have 5 minutes to go to the bathroom and get some water because they're just starting to throw messages at me. Like, okay. And I felt it was worded a bit odd, but even though it wasn't a front page thing, it was just like one of 20 or 30 articles they were posting like every couple hours. We got so many people, like thousands and thousands of people found Severed Chains and thus found our community in general. And it's kind of like a two-way benefit that way. Like if you learn about Severed Chains first, you're going to end up learning about the community right after that, and vice versa.
Yeah,
And so, yeah.
I mean, PC Gamer is a huge information space on PC gaming.
Yeah.
So, just having even an impromptu interview with them probably really just set everything forward by leaps and bounds, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
That's just one piece of coverage. A lot of the times, and this is important too, this is the intersectionality of community stuff, is LOD gets covered a lot in like top 10 lists of like games that deserve a remake or that were forgotten supposedly or whatever buzzword they use for the headline. LOD is always in those lists so frequently. And sometimes they mention, oh, well, LOD did get re-released on PS4 and 5 at least, but no word from Sony, and it just kind of like doesn't leave much hope really. And you know, historically that would be understandable because we only knew of official releases, but these days, especially, there are so many emulation-based mods, or better yet, lots and lots of ports coming out for N64 games, PS1 games like LOD, and they still a lot of those articles just never do the research to see like what's happening in the community. Is there anything new I can say for this article? And it'd be nice if that happened a little more often, I think, because it could really help us get the visibility we need to help us rocket off and get an even higher trajectory for ourselves. And I also think that would help the news, like the gaming and news sites, get more hits for their website. For having these articles actually go into like, okay, what's happening with the LOD fandom? What's happening with Valkyrie Profile or Legend of Legaia or Siphon Filter? They have an amazing community. They've done some incredible stuff just within themselves and trying to get extra information. I think they've gotten word back from one of the voice actors, possibly. I don't remember. But these communities have all done really incredible stuff. It'd be great to see more reporting on it. Because if one single article, one random article in a sea of like 50 articles posted for the day on that site can give us that much, LODers who didn't find us before for some reason, imagine if we had better coverage,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that you touched on briefly. That's not something that I, or probably a lot of people, have really thought about, is that, all of the articles that you do find online are all specifically about the game and not necessarily the community. And so I feel like when you guys created Severed Chains, you kind of solidified the community into what it is now.
Yeah.
And going into that Severed Chains, it's definitely a loaded name. And in our conversations off air, you said you took 108% of the credibility for that name. So would you mind telling us where it came from?
Of course. The name comes from the intro sequence, as I mentioned before. It doesn't just say cool things like, one mystery begets the next. It ends with, you are free to sever the chains of fate that bind you. And we were shopping around for a couple different names. Nothing stood out too much. One was going to be, I don't remember if I mentioned this or someone else did, Reloaded. So RELODED. I love wordplay, but I ended up thinking of Severed Chains myself. I was like, oh, we're free. This Monoxide's telling me this is gonna, go way past what emulation can do, and I'm starting to see this in a few other reverse engineered ports at the time, and I was like, oh wow. So we're severing our chains, and it was really, as soon as I thought of it, that was kind of it for me. But it was up to the others, of course, to decide. I didn't write the program, I'm not a programmer, but I pitched it and they agreed. So it's called Severed Chains because it's the quote from the intro sequence, and it matches what the purpose of the software is, which is to break the chains, uh, I guess break the limits that are inherent to emulation. Like the whole benefit of emulation is that you only need a programmer or team to write one piece of software that usually can cover an entire library of games.
Yeah.
Every Game Boy Color game, every N64 game, for the most part. In some cases it's harder. Like there was early Xbox emulation was awful in that it couldn't play more than one or two games, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
But generally speaking, so we're all used to PS1 emulators playing just about every PS1 game, and that's so much work saved, so much benefit. And native to emulation, you have save states so that although they can be unstable and you should still use NAT saves when possible, it's easy to hop in and out if you just need to do a quick rewind or something. It's got turbo, it's got all these other things. You can fix a bit of the PS1's wobble effects on 3D models. So there's a lot to like there. There's a reason it's sustained for so long. But
Mm-hmm.
this goes so much further, and if you have someone who is experienced enough as like a software engineer or whatever kind of programmer, especially if you have a team who can make it happen even faster, you should do it. Because I mean, just look at everything we're enjoying now. We've had years of near zero loading time when we're switching between the different maps, walking around the background images. It's nice and fast. Loading into battles, everything is snappier. The menus, all of it. We're spending so much more time playing instead of just waiting for the game to load. And that's, I think that's pretty qualitative. Like, sure, if you're just sitting and relaxing, you don't mind some loading screens, but it adds up a lot, especially if you're replaying the game like on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
So it respects your time more, even if you have, say, you have no interest in mods or anything else. Like, it respects your time more. It restores the asset quality to what it really was, because the PS1 couldn't render the assets at the full quality, whether it's the 3D models or the music. There's so many benefits, and there's basically something for everyone at that point.
Yeah. Um, did Severed Chains bring in a whole slew of new people, as well as returners for nostalgia?
I can't put a number on it, but we've had multiple reports of that. People saying they're going to give it their first try ever on Severed Chains. There are some who have said, I remember a few people from last year, they were like, I still want to play it on the original first so I can tell the difference better when I play it on Severed Chains. And I understood that too. I mean, either path is valid there. Um, but yeah, some people have just dove right in with Severed Chains. I imagine, I mean, we're in the age where like all the original fans who were 10 to 12 are now usually near my age of 37,
Yeah.
and they can easily be married with kids or be an aunt or uncle, whatever. And they're exposing the next generation of kids to this game that they love so much. And I bet you some of them are just starting them off with Severed Chains. It's like, don't even bother with all the, limits of the PS1, especially if, a kid's going to be impatient. They'll probably enjoy the, instant response times.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of Severed Chains, is that it, in my opinion, it is the better option, because I was an original 4-disc PlayStation 1 player, and I can attest to the fact that Severed Chains is just so much better, and I cannot sing the praises that you and your team have done with this program, to bring a freshness to a game that I thought was dead in the water. So, in saying that, with the new blood coming in and some nostalgia players, have you come across any tension between purists and people that don't? Because usually there's, how do I want to phrase this? There's usually a group of people when anything new comes out that doesn't like anything new. So do you have any like original purists that didn't like severed chains?
Yes, there are some cases where it's left at that, if that makes sense. And like, okay, I respect how you feel about it. I know what it's like to experience things that end up feeling like it gets something new and that tarnishes it, whether it's like a new season of a show that just feels completely trashy and I wish I could forget it existed, kind of a thing. Um,
Ugh, Charmed.
and there are examples in games, TV shows I liked that I felt like what the heck happened here. Um, I don't feel like the same thing can really apply to severed chains because the example I like to use is when developers made something for these older consoles in particular, back when there were lots of strict limitations on like, you had like 4 MB of RAM.
Yeah.
That's not very much. No game's gonna run on that today, unless it's like, blackjack or something very simple. Um, so today it doesn't really matter, but back then it did. And so in those cases, they have to make 3D models that are not too complex. They have a certain limit on how many, polygon faces there are. The sound quality could not be at full; it had to be reduced. Voices had to be compressed. Um, Sometimes voice files are put in at like 80% speed, and then the game speeds them up to sound normal or whatever. There's all this stuff that goes into it, and in the case of the 3D models in particular, I think to myself, well, the developers wanted to make the stunning visual, big graphics affair, and they could do that with the FMVs, but even those got crunched. And in the in-game graphics, it didn't look nearly as good, obviously. Like, they still had to do kind of chunky 3D models. Um, if they had started if they had started it as a PS2 project, a lot more of their vision would have come through. But that's not how it happened. So the PS1 couldn't render the assets at the full quality. And I think to myself, well, the devs don't want their work to look worse than it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
this wasn't a game where you're intentionally trying to make it look, scrappy and low res. So, if anything, this is more like how the devs would have wanted it because, it increases, not increases, but it restores the asset quality to what they originally made, at least what they submitted to the disk files. And
Yeah.
I don't think any developer wants bugs in their game.
No.
I don't see an inherent value in a soft lock when you're fighting Linus and Regol on chapter 2. I would like to be able to use Dragoon form as intended by the developers. So to me, there's a bit of flaw in that purist mindset. Like, the devs don't want those things to be that way. So we try to honor that as part of our process. I do understand it. Um, there have been some cases where it's been a lot more than that, especially lately on Facebook. There's been a few people who have been really negative, and it always involves some really weird lies that are very easy to debunk with a little bit of information and education. And I try to kill them with kindness, if you will. Stick to the facts, and be like, I don't see the value, because part of the purism talk seems to involve like you should just buy it on PS4 or 5. It'll go to the developers. That's not strictly true at all. Do you really think the voice actors are getting residuals from the PS4 sales? I would say no.
Probably
That's
not. No.
the contracts would have had to be revisited in the first place because the original contracts were awful. Like, the whole voice industry was super bad at the turn of the century. So I
Yeah.
just think a lot of the arguments they use, or just the way they behave, how they treat others, is just invalid to begin with, and therefore I feel like there's not much ground to stand on. If you just wish to stick with the original experience and that's really how you feel, great. But otherwise, it just leaves a negative hole in the community that doesn't need to be there, and it's often built on lies. So we try to keep the facts straight.
Good. And you should.
Yeah.
Quick question. So this game came out in what 1999, I think it was in
Yes.
Japan, and 2000 in America, and I think it was 2001 in Europe or something like that. That was the very tail end of the PS1 era, and the PS2 dropped, I believe, in 2000. Do you think this game could have been any better if it had been pushed back and released on the PS2?
Mostly my answer is yes. There's a lot of nuance to it, which I will leave some of that out for sake of brevity. um, so we don't know what LOD would have looked like without the super inspo they got from FF7. Maybe it would have come out a little bit sooner, and therefore it would have benefited from better exposure before PS2 came out. But with less put into the project, would it stand out as much? I don't know. As the product we received, would it be better if it was a PS2 launch title instead? I think 1000% yes. Um, there's a little nuance I have to mention there in that even if they did, uh, they would have to redo a lot of their assets. Like they couldn't just, subdivide, if you know what that term is, subdivide the 3D models and smoothen them out. You would probably have to construct new 3D models, redo the animation, which this game used motion capture. They would have to redo the motion capture as well. Costs would balloon. They would have to re-render their FMVs at a different quality. It would
Yeah,
have been a lot of extra work after being near the tail end.
yeah.
So
So,
what would have
yeah,
had to happen is they would have had to start later. So they would have to start late enough that they could have started it as a PS2 project from the beginning. That would have, I think, been ideal because if you look at the FMVs, they're in 16:9 regular widescreen format. PS2 of the PlayStation series, PS2 was the first console to support widescreen. It would have been a perfect showcase of what the PlayStation hardware could do in terms of the visuals and the widescreen, and it being a direct, not just like a first party, like, oh, it's a studio that answers to Sony. It's literally Sony's own studio, their
yeah,
own in-house development team that they like hodgepodge together from different sources to make this happen. It would have been a perfect showcase, and I think it would have really set Japan studio and maybe even Sony as a whole on a very different trajectory, in my opinion. But they got caught in this. Well, it's taking a while. It's taking almost roughly 3 years to make, and by the time it's ready, the LOD got showed at the Tokyo Game Show, the same Tokyo Game Show where the PS2 was displayed. The PS2 hype was in its prime, at the very beginning of its prime. PS2 shows up, everyone's looking at the PS2. They're not looking at LOD. They're not looking
no,
at other. I mean, a person who ends up going to the Tokyo Game Show, they might still go by the PS1 area because that's available right now and they want to see that. But basically speaking, the PS2 was the focus. And so all of the RPGs that were trying to come out because of FF7, I think kind of suffered from that. Not just the PS2 launch, but also encroaching on each other. There are a lot of factors that go into like LOD's unfortunate timing, but that's a very small piece of it.
yeah,
It would have been great as a PS2 launch title. Jesus, like, can you imagine the FMVs? Even those would still be really crunched down, by the way, but you would have been able to discern so much more of the detail. If you look at any of the still frames, as artifacty as they are, you can see glimpses of how much surface detail there is on like these random pillars that are part of a
yeah,
building. Like there was a whole style that went into the design of all of that stuff. So
yeah.
much work.
And Monoxide mentioned some like all of the background rendering and all the background graphics were all hand drawn. So, and
Yeah,
that
they did a lot of sketches and things of what the submaps, as we call them, or they called them, actually, they called them submaps, would look like. The areas where Dart walks around. But they made 3D scenes for them and then baked them into a screenshot. So basically, if you were in a 3D modeling program like Blender with a whole like town, you would just set up a camera looking a certain way, take a screenshot from that camera's point of view, and now you have a 2D backdrop and you just layer in some like walking paths.
Yeah.
That's what they did. Like this all could have been walkable maybe if it started as a PS2 title. Who knows?
It's fun to theorize and think about because that's not even something that I've ever really thought about until just now. Is like, what if it got pushed back and
Yeah.
was a PS2 launch instead of a PS1? Because I feel like that probably would have enhanced the longevity of the game, and it probably would be more in any spotlight now than it is now.
Yeah. I can tell you they were, at least some of them were excited about it because in one of the interviews we unearthed, director Yasuyuki Hasebe, said himself he was extremely looking forward to leveraging the power of the PlayStation 2 to design a prequel.
Oh,
He wanted to do the Dragon campaign.
that is something that I would love to play.
Exactly. That it's ripe territory. Almost every fan would love to do it. A few have said, "Well, we already know what happens," but like again, that doesn't make sense to me in the sense of, if you like Pepsi, do you just drink one Pepsi your whole life? Of course not. You keep going back for more. And there's all these other details that would be able to be added in. Modern graphics, obviously. Um, I'm always looking for, new creative works of art that aren't just the same old traditional rehashes of things. The LoD dragons are a
Yeah.
great example of that. The Virage are a great example of that. LoD has a super rich backstory. Like there's so much we could flesh out there. Themes that apply to the real world today. Of, um, God, there's so much. There's so much we could touch on, and yeah, it's. I think a lot of people they don't seem to talk about, at least, that the Dragon campaign would be a very sad story. So that's, it's a difficult thing you'd have to be careful with if you're the person designing such a prequel. But I think LOD already has a lot of loss. So anyone who's played LOD would at least be a little used to it. And other games have loss. Expedition 33 has some really difficult loss in it.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
I'm still hurting. Okay. That doesn't mean I don't want to go through it and that there isn't plenty of positive to balance it out. Like I just think it's always been a good time to explore the ideas of more LOD in an official capacity. But, we can't wait around forever. So if Sony decides to do something, we're interested. We're all very interested to see what they can do. But in the meantime, I like to quote Rose, we're going to blaze the way to the future by ourselves.
Yeah.
Whether it's Severed Chains or any of the other community projects, there are some secrets in development I can't wait to tell everybody about.
Yeah. Speaking of secrets and developments, I know that you guys are looking forward to you guys are working on mods and putting forth the ability to mod severed chains and how people would want to. Um, do you think anybody would be interested in creating a mod to make like a prequel or something, for the Dragon campaign? Or do you think that is possible?
I can tell you in the future it will be completely possible. And I can also tell you that someone will try to do it. Would you like my source for that?
Sure.
Me. I am the source.
Hell yeah.
I, I'm not an author per se, but I've written a lot. I think I know how to put words down that sound good to people, for lack of a better word. I think people have sometimes commented that there's a certain way that I type that, speaks to them, and I want
Okay.
to capitalize on that. It starts with just the ideas of like, oh, what would there be in a prequel? And you start with, okay, well, we have the things we already know for a fact. We have uh, the things that are literally told to us and shown to us is like there's a fight in Cadessa,
Yeah.
the Wingly capital, and the defeat of Melbu Frama, and the subjugation of all the species and whatever. But if you actually take time to think about what that means, what that like implies, there are so many juicy pieces of content there or experiences. So, for example, the humans didn't start with Dragoon spirits, they had to discover them.
Yeah,
That
because
means that
didn't let me see if I'm remembering my lore correctly. The dragons gave them the dragoon spirits to give leverage against the winglies, correct?
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But that implies, as what's told in the Japanese guidebook, is that when a dragon dies, all of its multiple eyes are fused together into a single gem, and that's the Dragoon spirit. And it will briefly glow, and if it is harvested by a humanoid, um, its power is preserved. If it is not harvested within like a moment or two, it fades and is lost forever, passes on to the next life, I guess, or whatever. So the dragon has to die, and unless the dragons are killing themselves, they're probably instead testing the skills of the humans in battle who are trying to get free from the slavery and all that. And so for me, that implies, oh crap, Emperor Diaz and his ragtag guerrilla rebels need to evade Wingly forces and defeat dragons that are super powerful, because there's a ranking system for dragons. All of the Dragoon spirits for the original Dragoons, and thus the ones we get in the modern timeline, are from six-eyed dragons. That is the second highest tier, and eye count determines power level, which also carries over to the Dragoons. So they had to fight some of the absolute most powerful dragons alive to earn their power. And that makes for 7 amazing boss fights right out of the gate.
Yeah. And then you said that when a dragon dies, its eyes fuse together into a gem. And you know, that's just ripe for storytelling, because at current level or current time, we only have 7 dragons. You know, like there are other elements to explore potentially. You know, there are more dragons with lesser or more eyes to explore potentially in a
That's right.
prequel. So it's like, and as you said, like we have the main story beats from the FMVs and the storytelling and Legend of Dragoon. So all you really have to do as this mod author is just connect them.
Yeah, just flesh it out.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get carried away, but I think that can be tempered with just looking at it and saying, "Oh, there's too much here," and cutting something out. But like, it all I think is really fascinating. There's so much you can do, whether it's like, okay, what are the implied boss fights? Okay, we're gonna fight these six-eyed dragons. Dragons are gonna be in their prime in general, or at least not nearly extinct. All the ones you have in LoD are against you. Fairbrand is against you. Rigol is against you. The Divine Dragon is against you. And yeah, that's a big, powerful enemy. But they were your allies in the Dragon campaign, so it's kind of awkward and kind of sucky that you have to fight your former allies, right?
Yeah.
But due to the nuance of how Dragon loyalty works, they don't follow people who are good. They follow people who have just some particular conviction, like Graham or Linus. And the way there's a whole vassal system, but basically, you know, so that's why you're against them. Wouldn't it be nice if you could actually have dragons as allies? You know, you've got your vassal dragon that you command. You've got other dragons just in the fight, helping out in general. Maybe some ordinary humans are riding on the back of a random dragon with a bunch of spears and pitchforks, as depicted in the history murals and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much you can explore there, and I almost kind of envision it like the map system for Dragon Age Inquisition a little bit. Not necessarily the exact same thing, but I take some inspiration from that. Like, you have the whole continent of Endiness. You start with like nothing. Emperor Diaz decides to declare war. You find the first Dragoon spirit in Gloriano somewhere. You need a stronghold, which eventually would be Velweb. Just need to figure out how to layer these pieces in in just the right order, and get the pacing just right, and make sure all the problems that would be there are there. For example, the Japanese guidebook goes on to convey that Kubila, one of the winged executioners, had great difficulty figuring out who to side with in the Dragon campaign conflict, because both factions abhorred hybrid species, which is also touched on in the segment for Damia. So there would have to be some parts of like the human rebellion where Damia does not feel welcome because some of the other human soldiers or freed slaves are just like and facing that, that there's so much woven into so many details woven into the history that it almost feels easy to write a prequel. The ending is already set up. You already know where the climactic, how the rebellion's going to take off. You just need to do the things in the right order and, honor the canon.
Yeah. And,
but there's also a lot that you could expand too. I won't keep going on, but, one thing I really want to talk about the community stuff. A fan artist wanted to make a tribute for me, and they asked me, what do you want? I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things I could ask for. But I would like to see a Memento as a Dragoon, because if you see an optional moment in in Donau, Pelpy shows up there. He's the one who got scammed by the street vendor with the ticket that had the backside front and the front side back. Yeah. Later, he's in Donau, and although it's missable, he tells you that there's a shiny stone being sold in Lohan, and that he wanted to have one, and that's always inspired me, So like, okay, Memento Dragoon. And I gave this artist who offered to make me this tribute all the reference shots I could find, and I said that I was hoping to see Pelpy as a Memento Dragoon, but they must have forgot or something, and they took one of the other Mementos in the game, and they happened to base it on the Memento that looks the most crazy.
Oh.
So there's a couple Mementos on the moon that I don't know if you said at the beginning, but spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't finished the game, sorry. There's a Memento on the moon with the most sinister smile, the most sinister grin. Like, the smile is wider than Frugal's. It's so scary. It's so intimidating. It's so intense. And I also love it because when they drew the character, they kept that insane looking wide smile. It's a winged Memento Dragoon with dual commas. They're like little sickles.
Yeah.
And they looked so good. And they even so most Dragoons, they have the Dragoon the headband with the gems that represent how many eyes that dragon had when it was alive. So all of the Dragoon headbands for our main cast will have six gems to represent the 6 eyes they had. Most of them are just on the forehead. This fan art had all those gems and the little band as like a clip on the ponytail.
Okay.
That was super creative. I would love to see that.
Yeah, and oh man, God, I could sit here and talk for hours.
Yeah, we're not doing an interview anymore. We're just talking about LoD.
Yeah, about missing lore and stuff, because that is something that I am also interested in, because there is so much stuff in this game that the game just briefly touches on, and it's like, I want to know more. But yeah, let's swing
That's
back.
How I feel.
Yeah.
Do we have to?
And talking about mods for Severed Chains, could something like full voice acted dialogue ever realistically happen?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because what I'm envisioning is something like, and to touch briefly on Final Fantasy VII, the mod thing for that, I can't think of the name for it, is Echo S, or for Seventh Heaven, yes. Is that something that you envision for the future? Can you tell me anything about that?
So, based on the passion that we have for the game in general and the mods that have been made in these early phases, absolutely. Like, I can't promise, because who knows, maybe it won't happen, but I think it will happen, given what we've done already. The basic idea for Severed Chains, beyond just being a better way to play the game as is, with the fast load times, the bug fixes, the few things that we force on the player. The other aspect is the customization and the ability to replace things. So it starts with, as we go, every so often we'll unlock another type of thing that can be changed, like weapon modding, for example, or just 3D model modding. After the next big release, we'll have script modding, so that there can be script mods that are easier to make now as well. You will just be like editing a text file. You won't have to do any kind of weird patcher tools or anything like that. It'll be a lot simpler. And for voiceover stuff, I imagine that'll be similar, and just sound replacements in general. But yeah, the idea is to make everything replaceable when there's time to add in each of those individual features. So replace models, replace textures, replace like particle effects, VFX in the spells you use in combat, the script. You could even put in new sprites potentially, new background images, new battlefields, new bosses, new additions, new everything basically. And some of that's already in. Like we have custom editions now, at least the first phase of it. It's fantastic. So voice stuff will happen probably at some point after the script modding. I believe the team even said themselves they felt they announced it a little too early. So it's been like a year or two since that announcement happened for LoD, Echo S LoD or whatever it was called from Sunamod's team. But they're still going to do it. Like the minute it's possible, they're going to be on the phone. They're going to be like, okay, let's get this underway.
Wait, so are you guys going to be working in tandem with Sunamods to make this happen?
Well, probably a little bit. We're already planning to do this we do this with certain types of things in the modding API because we need people to tell us whether they're working correctly. So we need testers. Sometimes we do public tests, and sometimes they're just generic, okay, we've refactored a lot of the code, things are liable to break, please break it as much as you can. Sometimes we're testing a specific feature. Sometimes it is secret because we're planning a surprise announcement for it, which we have multiple things in the pipeline for that. I'm not telling you what that is.
Okay.
And so we need secret testers for that. And sometimes it's just a thing where like we're cracking open a big aspect, like script modding. We need people who are going to like at least make a small, you don't have to make a whole book, but make 7 or 8 different lines in English, and then we'll have someone else do it in Spanish or Portuguese or Cyrillic or whatever the case may be, whichever language, whichever character set, to make sure that it'll render correctly in the game. Because like something that Monoxide may have touched on, but in case he didn't, the core SC dev team mostly focuses on the core framework of the modding API alongside the other base things about Severed Chains. Apart from select instances where we'll do a prototype just to demonstrate the value of something we're doing, it's usually a case where like we need others to help us test, because it would be so much work to create such test mods. And in this case, we don't speak all the different languages. So like, okay, we need a couple of volunteers who are going to, write up a little Portuguese, write up a little Spanish, a little German, a little Russian, whatever the case may be, Italian, and see that they're working correctly. And that may be the case with the voice modding as well. We need to make sure that it's working. Yeah, Monoxide or I could record some voice lines and just throw them in there and see what happens. But we also want to test like a actual use case that is actually going to happen probably. Not just, okay, I said a line. I'm not a audio engineer. I can't necessarily tell that the quality is rendering the way it's supposed to, for example, especially if it's music modding. So like we need people who are going to be doing those specific things to evaluate it and tell us what's wrong or what's working right, whether it's ready or not. So that may be the thing. I've spoken with Suna myself, the actual Suna, not just Sunamaz the community, but Suna the person.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken with several of their team members in the past. Severed Chains has been on like this weird trajectory where like there's always updates. It's always an active project. There's been a few, small hiatuses, but understandable given its basically a no money thing. And despite that, there's still lots of updates, but it's just gotten in such a way. This was originally the thing we're working on since like mid 2023 was the graphics overhaul to get modern rendering with OpenGL. So we're not just using like a resolution upscaling similar to emulators. So we can have the native 4K resolution and true widescreen and all these other things. And that's been done for a long time. And the dev build these days is stable enough. We just tell people download the dev build. We actually hide the previous stable release. But it was originally envisioned as like a 6 to 12 month thing, maybe. The code ended up being more, complicated than intended. And so now, kind of to help compensate, a lot of extra features have been added in, like sorry, let me fix my brain. Version 3, SC 3.0 was going to be the graphics overhaul, and that's long done. We still haven't released the stable release for that. We haven't like cut that and issued that specifically, except for the rolling dev builds. Version 4 was going to be focused on the modding API, expanding all these different modding features, but now we also have lots of extra modding features. The custom editions, weapon modding, all this stuff is in the rolling dev build. So it's kind of this amalgamation now, and we're getting close to the point where we can finally ship it, but I still can't give a date for when that is. So the trajectory is a little funky now, but still, as we're trying to taper this off finally this year, after that will be script modding, and probably shortly after that, hopefully, would be voice modding. But it's going to be a little bit longer of a wait, but it's still going to be super worth it. There's just been so much good stuff going into SC already.
And for people who haven't played Severed Chains, this is a completely free thing. Everyone who is working on this is doing this out of their own pocket and in their own time. And because we are all, as I said, in our mid to late 30s, like, we don't have a lot of that. So patience will definitely be a virtue for anyone who wants voice acting like myself. I think that would be just a fantastic addition to this game.
I was going to say it anyway, but basically, once the new version is out, if we even still call it 3.0, once that's out, we expect a huge influx of new people. We're planning a big, ethical advertising campaign for that, where they allow self promos and things, and getting content creators to give it a try and all of that. And we expect a huge deluge of people to come in. Once that happens, we're gonna just have a lot more people enjoying the game, talking in the community, and possibly even a few more people helping out with the coding to help speed things up even more. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
But I really hope that when the time comes, you will be completely floored, because the voice modding is going to be fantastic, whether it's from Suna Mods or anyone else. There was a team that did this YouTube series. It was a fan dub, but the thing that really got me about it wasn't their voiceovers so much, although they did good work. I was really enthused with custom creature sounds that they made. They made custom creature sounds for like the Firebird, I think, and some of the other early game areas bosses. It was fantastic.
Oh.
I would love to see custom creature sounds, just sound effects in general.
Some ambient noises like footsteps and all that stuff. Yeah, that
LoD literally has a ambient track level. Like, we have volume sliders right now. If you turn off the music, you'll still hear ambience. Every different submap, even in a given area, like say Limestone Cave. If you go to Limestone Cave and you turn off the music, of course the music is great, but say you turn it off, you hear these like ambient cave ooh kind of reverby echo of the wind or the air or whatever. Sometimes there's little water droplets, and when you get to the section where you would fight the boss, the giant snake Eurobolus, you actually hear snake sounds in the background, and it's so much easier to notice when the music isn't playing. In Helena Prison, there are some background images where there is or is not like a fire crackling kind of a thing.
Okay.
All these little tiny details, and that means we can have custom ambience, not just custom music. You can see my passion bleeding through here.
By all means, let it. Um,
Lots of details that we can enjoy.
yeah. So, swinging back to the community, every community hits rough patches. Uh, what's been one of the harder situations that you've had to manage, if at all?
So there have been a few moderation challenges. Again, the fandom is generally really peaceful, but every so often you're going to have um, bad encounters, whether it's two people who mean well, or it's somebody who just wants to be a butthole for the day, or even on a long-term basis. And that's any community in general, I think.
Yeah.
There was a time where our mod team, myself included, were hyper unavailable. We were all busy with real life stuff, whether we were working or whatever. In my case, I had a cat at the vet, so like I could not just be on my phone the whole time. The cat is sick. The cat, I need to hear what's happening to the cat.
Yeah.
We care about the cat, so it was a bad situation. We one of us quickly said something of like, please keep it peaceful, whatever. But while that usually is enough, in that case it wasn't, and we were it went on. It got ugly a few hours later, I think, and we regret not acting sooner. Like, if all of us are unavailable by chance, we should just like close messages temporarily on the server. It wouldn't change anything at the end of the day. Um, so lesson learned there. Every
Yeah.
so often, there's like these little I don't even know what to call them, little ticks, little hiccups that happen, and that's just people. And I think it's, to a certain extent, if you're remorseful, then whatever you said is fine, so long as you weren't too vitriolic. Um, but there was that one day, like, it got really bigoted and nasty and awful, and just
Oh,
not the spirit of the community at all. Like, that happens anywhere. But
tempers apparently were flaring way out of control, it seems.
if one person who decides to be a butthole or a bigot or a Nazi is allowed the room to speak and doesn't get moderated right away, it can embolden others who are normally silent to also be a giant butthole. And that happened on the Discord server in this case. There was pushback and anti-trans sentiment, for example, on the subreddit. That was some really awful stuff. Um, we just wanted people to feel safe and included, and a, a, like a dozen people or so got really really upset about that. And I was like, if it's that hard to stand with your fellow fans, I don't know what you learned from the game. I mean, the whole point, especially from Maru's perspective, was to look outside of your own species, look outside of your own race, and be welcoming and accepting. That should have been a lesson that we took to heart, I think. But
Yeah.
that happens in any given community. I'm not too worried about that. That's a very very tiny minority in almost every case, and
Yeah.
we have a really really awesome and diverse community. Like, no question about it.
Well, in that description, you actually answered my next question, which was how do you decide when to step in versus letting people hash things out? So,
Yeah, we just try to stick to healthy policies, really. If people are staying in control of themselves, we'll give them a chance to, get back on course. But if it keeps going and no one's asking to take it to DMs or disengage, then we step in. It just depends on the case.
yeah, because and having a great community like this community is like it's probably a safe bet to let things kind of hash themselves out because we all have the one thing in common and we can usually come to sense, but as you said, like there are those people that do rise up on occasion.
You have to want to have a good faith resolution, like a goal on resolving things. You have to care about conflict resolution in general, of like, taking turns speaking or using I statements or whatever is necessary. Um,
Yeah.
some of it may sound, like child level stuff, but it always matters no matter how old we are. And you have to care about your impact, and you have to have a sense of remorsefulness. Like, there's very few cases where like we couldn't figure out what was the right call going forward. There was usually a, a clear example of, okay, one person needed to apologize or at least realize, oh, I didn't realize that's what you were trying to focus on, and every time I replied I was taking away from what you were trying to focus on or whatever, or I didn't give you the space for that. Like, just be people.
Yeah. So you probably get a lot of feedback on everything that you do. Is there any kind of input that actually helps you?
um it depends on what it is, really, whether we're talking about community organizing or building a new project. It always depends. um it's hard for me to think of specific examples, really. There's I've had so much history. I've talked to so many people. um Let me think about it for just a second.
All right.
I think input and getting feedback can be helpful when someone clearly demonstrates that they see what you're trying to go for. Like if I'm trying to build a specific service, like let's say I'm trying to build out a list of interviews, for example, all the interviews we know of the official dev team, whether it's a single individual, a group interview, and I'm like looking for feedback on like how should I present this on the website. And when somebody talks about the details of that, I think it's more helpful. Someone might suggest, oh, well, you could have on all of the individual pages that have an interview. So the interview page for interview number 1, the page for interview number 2, each individual web page, they would all have a list of all the interviews in like a sidebar on the right. So okay, that's super helpful because that's related content. If someone's checking out this interview, maybe they want to read the other ones. So that kind of helped me think about just like, okay, we'll have related content sidebars on a lot of our pages. So interviews, if you're reading one about how the North American commercial was developed and why it turned out the way it did, okay, you've read that. If you want more, there's another 5 or 6 on the sidebar. If you're reading about a community project and you like that and you're curious what other community projects there are, there's more in the sidebar on that same page. And it's always synchronized on any page I specify as a project page, they all have it.
Okay.
Like that's really good feedback to me. Is if you can kind of see what I'm going for, how can we best serve the fandom? That's one type of great feedback.
Yeah.
If somebody is, making a mod, like say the fishing mod, is it fun to do this fishing mini game? Is it too hard? Is it taking too long and it needs to be shortened? Whatever the case may be, it just depends on whatever we're building, really.
Yeah. So running something like this long term, has there ever been anything that caused any form of burnout?
Yeah, yeah. It depends on a lot of things, including external factors that have nothing to do with your work on that given thing. So, like, my life situation isn't ideal, and that factors in a lot. It makes it harder for me to have remaining energy to want to work on my passions, whether it's LoD or something else.
I feel
Sometimes
that.
there's a challenge within the thing I'm trying to do because, say, it requires programming skill I don't have, and Monoxide's already doing too much for us. So like, I try not to ask him for help too often. I just keep that occasional. And sometimes that can be frustrating because like there's this one project I really I wanted to launch it this month, and it's probably going to be on a bit of a delay, but I'm going to be trying again, trying to find more help because I'm really excited about it. But the fact that I had to do certain things to make it really ready, and the whole thing stopped working as a result, demotivated me quite a lot. It's hard not to be depressed about that. It was one of the most exciting things I've worked on. It involved collaborations with dozens of people. I'm trying not to give it away. So it can be challenging in all different kinds of ways. But I would say in general, like, be careful of not taking regular breaks. If you are a chronic computer person and you're always in front of a screen, take intentional breaks. There are even some apps on Windows and Linux or whatever system you've got that will like uh, take over the screen temporarily and dim the screen with some like white text saying, okay, it's time to take a break. Close your eyes for 20 seconds or whatever the case may be. Stretch your arms, drink some water. Kind of like streamers have in their like point redeeming systems on Twitch. You could like redeem 100 of those fake points to say hydration, and then they'll remember to drink some water. It's kind of like that, but just local software on your computer. So
Yeah.
definitely try to take some healthy breaks, and don't be afraid to uh, like disengage instead of banging your head against a wall for like 3 or 4 hours. Like if you're making good progress, fine, but like be careful and mindful of your time, and you'll be able to come back to it later.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that because I've been writing an outline for a trilogy, and I've stepped away from it a couple times, and I've come back to it, and I've really dug in. I've had a lot of sleepless nights just because like the ideas were there
Yeah.
and I had to put them on paper. So it's, it is always healthy to take breaks.
And also not being afraid to step down if you feel overwhelmed or below your usual energy level. Like if you're as part of a community thing, you've got other people, delegate.
Yeah.
If there's nobody else and it's just if it's for a video game, don't worry about like, oh, if I stop then there'll be no new updates for a week or 2 weeks or even a month. Just let the break happen, come back when you're ready. Your output will be so much better.
Yeah. So, has there been anything that's kept you from stepping away?
Uh, probably, probably my passion for the game. Um, Seeing everybody's reaction, whether it's to my earlier work and trying to unite us and get us all to come together and all work on things together. Um, Seeing so many landmark projects before Severed Chains itself, and now afterward, we just kind of have this, I don't know, effect of where the things we do bounce off of each other positively, we inspire each other. I know that I'm inspired by Zychronix's work. He made the first like major mod for LoD back on emulator, the original hard mode, before it became Dragoon modifier and had the hell mode as well. And he's worked on other projects. He's helped with SC so much. He's like a constant inspiration for me, for example. And I know that from the way we talk to each other, I inspire him as well. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you call it a feedback loop or something, but it's just like positive on positive, back and forth.
Yeah, I would call that a feedback loop.
God, I really want. There's a certain set of words I'm looking for, but I don't have that.
Stupid
It's
ADHD brains. I'm very familiar with that.
it's like I can remember 130 digits of pi without practicing since I did a little pi memory contest in like 7th grade 25 years ago, and that's just permanently in my brain, even though I haven't tried to remember it ever since. 3.141592. It's oh god, and I wish I could replace that with some other knowledge.
I feel the same way.
But yeah, I think that's some of the biggest inspiration is my core passion for the game itself. The way the story and all of it just hits me so hard. Like I said, it is lasted with me unlike almost any other game so much that it's in my DNA. It's in my blood. It's not my it's my forever favorite game, even though I wouldn't rate it the highest because it has flaws.
Yeah.
Several. It's grandfathered into that favorite spot. Nothing's ever going to replace it, I don't think.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I've interwoven with it so much. Like, this is a pretty large fandom, but me and many fans will tell you this, that they've often felt isolated, both when the game came out and even in recent years. They thought almost no one liked it. It turns out there's tens and tens of thousands of us. And so when I was first doing like the Unity stuff, there weren't that many helpers. And so I was just, you got to be careful of not filling in voids just because. especially if you happen to not be good at it. Like, there were times when I wasn't a great moderator, so we got to be careful about that and learn and get better. But like, there were so many things that I thought were worth doing. I kept seeing the potential of like, okay, a full list of concept art, a full list of promo renders, all the extra lore, being comprehensive in general, giving us an in-house wiki and our own website and our own Discord server and all these things. It was like doing a lot of kintsugi, if you will.
Yeah.
It was. I've interwoven myself into the fabric of this game, which was very unintentional for a while, and eventually I realized like, oh, I guess I've been, like the number one fan or something. It's kind of weird. That was not my intention, but that ended up being the case because, like, for the most part, with legacy fandoms, a lot of people don't think about, oh, let's act at the fandom level in terms of serving the community. We're just gonna, be the Facebook admin or the Reddit mod or the Discord server creator, community manager, like not intersectional with all of the things connected. So I can't imagine, not being inspired by this game a lot, because apparently I am.
I mean, it's hard.
I wouldn't spend so much time on it.
Yeah, and it's hard not to be inspired by this game. But as your role as the community organizer, do you see your role as maintaining it, or do you try to actively shape where it goes? And as a follow-up, have you ever pushed the community in a direction it didn't initially want or did?
It's a bit of both for the first part. It's both maintaining and doing specific things, creating new things, new services. It's all kind of a big bundle for me. Like I was saying before, it's not just one aspect. It's all of it together. Whether it's the news, the resources, the extra art we found. I'm not even sure what other words I can use to describe that really. There is a lot of maintenance. I maintain the web server. Monoxide was a big help in helping me set that up, and I make sure that it stays updated. And I try to think of other things we can use the web server for, which, hint hint, that's one of the secrets. We're using the web server for something else that I hope everyone really, really loves. Just a few more months from now. It's both in terms of the organizing. I've learned from real life that upkeep can easily get way out of control. So I try to keep that upkeep as low as possible, and make sure that we have teams for things wherever possible, so each person isn't doing, me levels of insane workload. I don't recommend it for anybody. You definitely want teams, and don't take on more than you can handle. Just because there's a lot, say there's like 10 things worth doing, it doesn't mean you should do all 10 of them. Like, work on something for a bit, shift gears later if you want, come back to the first thing. Don't try to do it all at once. Definitely. It's a little more free advice for you.
And as you said before, if you have people to lean on, delegate.
Yeah, exactly. Have I pushed the community in a direction it didn't initially want? I mean, the closest I could give you is wanting to do things for us that people just weren't used to happening in legacy fandoms. That goes back to like the weirdness I talked about at the beginning of like, what do you do if there's no official support and there's no new updates? Like, so I thought I'll just do general canvas. We'll have a news feed. We'll have some projects. We'll have some resources and da-da-da-da. But people still weren't used to that. They're just used to, like, for the most part, reminiscing about how much you like the game. And you do that on Facebook or Reddit. You say, oh, this hidden chest, anyone else miss it like me until now? And people will reply saying, yeah, I missed that chest. I didn't know it was there. It's apparently got this rare item. Oh, how about that? And I think that's, good community content, but it's kind of like a locked pattern almost. It's like the common denominator kind of discussions that we'll often have. And I wanted us to grow beyond that, I guess. Like, it's a good basis, but I wanted us to have more. So I was like, okay, art events. And it wasn't necessarily that the community didn't want it, but in part the algorithm didn't show it to them, so they didn't even know what was happening.
Yeah.
Or They weren't an artist, so they couldn't contribute. So it's not their fault, and you're not bad if you're not an artist, so you couldn't help the event. But like, it can be hard to gather up enough interest and momentum for things that you think they would really love, because
People are
it
people
might have
and they
been,
have their own opinions and things that they like and dislike.
well, I wouldn't even say that, honestly. I mean, that's partially true. That is true, but the thing I was probably going to go with is back in the aughts, closer to LOD's original release, there was more room, I think, for communities to have these kinds of organic discussions or things, or coalesce around these kinds of things. Like the early days of DeviantArt, for example, there was so much
Oh
LOD art being
man,
posted.
DeviantArt.
It was so good, so much good LOD fan art, and some has still come out even up to today, but not just through DeviantArt. And I've tried to encourage us to have those fan art events. But like, what changed is the evolution of social media. I always talk about this, like, the consolidated social media thing was bound to happen because it's efficient and it's helpful. Keeping track of, say, 50 different interests is generally not feasible, like manually. Like, yeah, we have bookmarks in our web browser, and there's ways we can address that. But as much as I advocate for those kinds of solutions, usually there's some credence to the whole, like, okay, go to Reddit, find I'm gonna find the subreddit for pod racing, I join that. Find the subreddit for beast wars, I join that. Outer space stuff, I'm joining that. Spaceships, I'm joining that. Aliens, I'm joining that. DIY stuff, I'm joining that. Whatever the case may be, and it consolidates it all so well, and so it makes sense. And then you get like little snapshots, little pieces, one post from each subreddit whenever you look at it on a given day. Here's an LOD post, here's a Hydro Thunder post, here's a pod racing post. It's efficient, it saves my time, I appreciate that. But it all gets so like siloed that it's become this like attention war almost. And I'm not going to get too in the weeds about what all that entails, but that is a thing that's happening. There are so many things fighting for our attention. There's so much world or local or national news that at least somewhat requires our attention. And there are so many like societal issues, like the issues of whether we should be doing this whole AI thing and large language model thing.
Yeah.
That what chance does a legacy fandom have carving out a space of attention? You know what I mean?
I get that. And
I think that has made it more challenging in recent years.
yeah, because like even and you were talking about subreddits and your main feed and all that, and there's no guarantee that if you're subscribed to 50 subreddits that like you're like every time you log in like you're going to see all of the new updates. It's impossible.
Yeah. And let's say you are a person that likes LOD more than most of your other legacy game interests, at least. You're only going to get some random post of somebody saying, oh, hidden chest. Okay, that's a good post, but due to the way Reddit works, if we post a big announcement, they're not necessarily going to see it. I learned that if we set our post as a highlight, it can damage its visibility in the algorithm. So we like don't set it as a highlight until a few hours later. It's so weird that we have to do that. We can't just push announcements to our community that are news about what the community is up to, all the best of the community. So our ability to curate sucks in that way. And so that's part of why I want to have us be as self-sustaining as possible, so that whether the social media situation improves or doesn't, we always have our main feed from legendofdragoon.org, our community fan site.
Yeah.
So that, if you want all the updates, you can just go to our website, or even we have an RSS feed. That used to be the cool nerdy thing to do.
Which, by the way, side note for listeners, again, you heard it on our main you'll have heard it on the main episode. You'll have heard it on the Monoxide interview. But legendofdragoon.org is where you can find the Severed Chains download.
Yeah.
So.
And lots of other
and
great
lots
things.
of other great things, yeah. And let's be honest here. This is probably, unfortunately, a forgotten game by Sony. But on the off chance, or if nothing else ever comes out of it, what do you think the community would still look like in 5 years?
Without,
Yeah,
I think it looks pretty great. I mean, nothing is forever. You know, a lot of games will struggle to have the kind of longevity that LoD has had already. So I think, you know, we're pretty lucky we've endured for 25 years, and in the last 7 or 8 years really grown and coalesced around each other and made all these cool projects and services. It's not just me. As big as my footprint looks, it wouldn't be possible without everybody else. Um, so I feel like, you know, with all the cool things happening in Severed Chains and the other cool things we're working on, some in secret, I wish I could tell you, it's only going to get better and better, because like we've got mostly everything figured out at this point. Like, we know how to serve community news. We know how to try and keep people interested despite the challenges we face with social media and whatever else, the whole attention thing. And we've got such signature landmark projects like Severed Chains. There's so much to enjoy. It's really hard to find anything to complain about, I think, no matter what you're looking for. Like, every kind of fan is going to benefit from at least something we've done as a community, whether it's something from our website. You'd say you really like the informational wiki stuff that we've written. Let's say you really like the mods for the increased replay factor. uh, Everybody is benefiting together in this, and we're creating benefits for each other in a lot of cases.
yeah,
um, like I said with me and Zychronics, like we enjoy the crap out of what each other is working on. I enjoy all the stuff that Monoxide is working on. I'm sure he enjoys all the extra visibility his Severed Chains project gets from all the news posts I make about it and the videos I make about it. You know, like, this, it takes a village. We're stronger as a team, and I really love to see it. So I think in 5 years, you know, we've already got the graphics overhaul basically done. We've got lots of modding features set up in terms of the Severed Chains aspect, and we have so many cool things on the wish list that will be done by then. I can't imagine it not being amazing. Like, obviously, I can't promise what will happen in the future. I can't. But based on how things have gone since like 2018, whatever you think of it now, it's going to be like double that. I don't know how to quantify it. It's just going to be so much better. And anything that's already great is just going to stay great. The community news, the comprehensive resources, um, maybe we'll even inspire Sony. Who knows?
yeah.
You know, I've always hoped that the stuff we do, whether it's the little minutia stuff or the big landmark stuff we do, um, gives the current Sony company as a whole a sense of pride, gives the original dev team a sense of pride. I don't know if you saw this, but I did the 25th anniversary short messages from the devs that thanked us for still enjoying the game 25 years later. Um, we got those messages translated. They told us some new things, like the basis for Lloyd's character design, facts we might never have learned otherwise if we hadn't come together and done all this stuff.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I'm still waiting for a reply, but uh, we have a developer interview coming up that hasn't happened in a very, very long time. Like, there's been a few interviews here and there for a voice actor, and Dennis Martin got a new interview recently, but I'm talking about
Like one of the.
the core development
Oh
team.
wow.
Yes, that's going to be huge. I can't wait to show you all what that entails. And I'm not saying, you know, something magical is going to happen as a result of that, but I am going to tell you it's going to be a very special interview. And I'm hoping that it will lead to possibly additional interviews, or, you know, maybe even semi-regular contact with one of the devs. Who knows?
Oh, that would be amazing.
You know, there are things I hope for. But yeah, like, worst case scenario, if there's nothing else that's going to happen in official capacity, I think we'll be looking pretty good, all things considered. Like, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of years to build all this stuff up, but we've got most of it figured out now, and it's just a matter of continuing the work. Um, we're gonna eventually get to the point where complete story mods are possible that have, custom cutscenes, custom battlefields, custom enemies, and all of that, where we can make like a full mod, if you will, like that is an actual like campaign mod. Instead of playing the normal LoD campaign, you might do like the dragon campaign, or just a slice of it, because that would be a lot less work just to proof of concept. You could do a smaller campaign that's just like some of Lloyd's story before the current events of the game. It could be a small prequel about the Vassal knighthoods and Lavitz leading his soldiers into battle and having allied Vassal soldiers helping you out. Lavitz helping train Albert in the spear and actually showing that on screen instead of just hearing about it. There's so many little things we can explore.
Yeah, and if someone wants to contribute to any of that in a meaningful way and not just lurk, what could they actually be doing to help out? Like, where could they go?
Well, it depends. There's a lot of things that someone could get plugged into. It depends on what their skills are, if any. So if you're a programmer, obviously Severed Chains and or the modding scene are the right place to go. Um, in a lot of cases, for now, we'll point people to our Discord server, discord.gg/Legend of Dragoon. We do a lot of our collaboration there when we're working on projects together. So if you're going to work on, make your own mod, you can just do that. But if you would like the visibility for it, or you want to collaborate with others on making a mod or improving core Severed Chains, the Discord server is a great place to do that. We've got a channel dedicated to Severed Chains development and questions about the software. We've got a whole modding section where mod authors can make topics, make their own threads advertising their mods. So Icarus has the thread for Legend of Tides. Psychronix has the thread for Dragoon Modifier. There's these cool randomizers, Iron Goon and also Archipelagoon, which is like a multiplayer kind of a system almost. That's really interesting. There's all kinds of stuff to enjoy there, but if you want to contribute, you could be a part of all the new stuff coming out. Be a part of this golden age that I think we're experiencing in the last few years. It's going to last a long time. If you want to help with other things, it really depends, but we have a help wanted page on the community website and a corresponding volunteer channel on the Discord server to discuss like, hey, what you want to help with, and based on your answer, we'll try and fit you somewhere that you fit, whether it's like, oh, I want to do writing stuff. Okay. I could use guest writers, for example, on the community website. Help me write articles about new mods that are coming out, or some event that we're doing, like an art event. You could just write those posts. You could also write story content on the wiki. That's one of the things we really need right now, is filling out the story content properly. And you don't even need any programming language for certain things like that. So even if you have no skills, if you have the passion and the interest and the time, step forward. We could really, really use additional helpers. Like, it's already a great situation, but sometimes we're running skeleton crews. Sometimes it's just one person barely keeping a project going. Sometimes a project has to stay benched because there's no one who can give it time for months or even years. So the more people step in and help augment or unbench these projects, the better.
Yeah. Well, that's about all the questions I have. So, if you want to be a part of Severed Chains, Drew just dropped a whole bunch of links that will also be in the show notes. They've got the Discord, they've got the website. You can help out, you can poke your head in and ask some questions. If your passion is high enough and you feel like you want to, join in on the fun and shenanigans that they're doing over there and all the secret stuff that I couldn't get out of Drew today.
Even 5 minutes makes a difference. You don't have to block out like 2 hours of your day or whatever. Like, you could theoretically just step in for 10 minutes and it'll make a difference.
Yeah. So by all means, if you're listening to this and you're passionate enough and you want to help out, go to those links and introduce yourself and make a difference. Um, but
If I may,
go ahead.
in terms of those secrets, I don't know if you noticed this, but we actually have a whole section about secrets on the Legend of Dragoon Discord server
Mm-hmm.
that we were just talking about. So it might just be some silly idea that some of us are potentially planning to do, but usually it's something that's actually coming, whether it's a news item or a secret mod in development or whatever the case may be. Um, the idea is that there's a thread for each secret, and it starts with a hint. And this was inspired by the long standing LoD riddle game on the old GameFAQs forums. That's a whole thing. Our history is long, by the way. So I was kind of inspired by that. I was like, what? How could I adapt this in a creative way without like ripping it off? Like, yeah, we could make our own riddle game. It wouldn't be bad, but could I do something different with it? And I thought of the secret system. So the idea is I post a hint, people guess what it is. You know, the hint might be a bunch of empty characters, kind of like Wheel of Fortune, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to guess what it is based on the number of characters in each word. And I'll slowly reveal what some of the letters are. I might just, provide the verbal hints. So, for example, uh, how did this work? Secret number 3. The first hint was a new component to LOD services. Hint 2 was two forces combined. Hint 3, a treasured history. And you would use those hints to try and guess um, what's coming. And eventually, if somebody guesses correctly, that thing is announced early, and everyone benefits from that person guessing correctly.
Oh, yeah.
So there's one active secret now, and that's the 6th secret, and more will continue to be posted. So if you would like to try your hand at guessing what's coming next, it's a great way to help the community collaborate and try and decipher things or do a little Easter egg hunt. You never know.
That sounds delightful.
Yeah.
So, you heard it from them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, go join the Discord to help solve the mystery. If you have any passion towards what they are doing, you can, pop your head in and, as I said before, help out. And as they said before, it doesn't even mean you have to put away blocks of your time to help out. Just a little bit a day would be enough. But in any case, it has been absolutely a pleasure talking to you, Drew. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and you have actually taught it.
I taught it.
Yeah, you taught it me.
I did.
So much more about this game than I ever thought possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank you immensely for coming on and talking to me about all of these things. So
You're super welcome. I only hope that I kept it brief enough because I know I can talk a lot, but you had a lot you wanted to know, and so you got it.
yeah, well, I appreciate it. And as I said, all of your plugins will be in the show notes. And I have been Fenris. You can find me everywhere on Discord, Steam, Epic, EA, GOG, Final Fantasy XIV on Gilgamesh. I'm Fenwolf on Xbox and Fenris on Battle.net. So thank you, listeners. If you would like to support our show, you can do that at patreon.com/Spectre approved. If for $3.50 US or $5 Australian, you can help us keep the lights on. You can come and check out our shenanigans over at bit.ly/TSMP Discord, all caps. That's where we have a lovely group of people that talk about games mostly. Our leader of the Discord is Dalton Suter, aka Now the Nightmare. You can find all of his music at nowthenightmare.bandcamp.com. If you enjoyed the intro and outro music of the episode. You can find that there. He also does a bunch of covers and stuff. You can find some more of his stuff on YouTube at Dalton Suter. So yeah, this has been a bonus episode. It has been a pleasure talking to Drew. They are a lovely person who is obviously very passionate about Legend of Dragoon and everything that goes into it. And I can attest because Severed Chains blew me away. So once again, I would like to thank you, Drew, for coming on and talking to me about this.
Yeah, kudos to you for asking such specific questions. This is one of my favorite interviews.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
keep asking people very specific questions. That's the best.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to, know an answer, there's no point in beating around the bush and asking vague things.
Yeah. Well, you did a great job.
I appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Were we going to do my plugs as well?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm so sorry.
All right. So firstly, I have to, of course, mention LoD itself, our community. Without it, my work would be meaningless. So to start with, we have our community website, legendofdragoon.org. It's got news, resources, extra information you can't find anywhere else. It's just the biggest comprehensive collection of all things LoD. So whether you're a casual fan or a hardcore fan, a very specific kind of fan, even a speedrunner or something, there's a little something for everybody. And there's a lot if you enjoy all of the different categories of stuff we cover. We do events. We have a YouTube channel on YouTube. We have a community channel where we do live streams, and we're now starting to produce more pre-recorded content, and it's getting a lot of good reception. Even our most recent April Fool's video went over very well. It was good to give people a lot of laughs with that one. That was a team effort with myself, Monoxide, and Icarus. I don't remember if there was other people in that, but the credits are posted in the video. So the LoD fandom has done some great stuff, and those are the three main places where things are most alive. We also have the subreddit for people posting general content. There are Facebook groups, but we don't moderate those, so what you get may vary over there. As for me personally, I've been Drew Universe. I have a official website, drewuniverse.net. That is where I talk about the things that I work on from time to time in my blog. I feel like I'm one of the last vanguard of bloggers who still believes in the practice. I haven't blogged very recently, but I do plan to do that some more. I really like to write and talk about my life experiences, LoD, whatever the case may be. And you can learn more about me on some static pages I have there as well, with my history with gaming or my other interests. That'll keep growing over the next several weeks. I'm going to do a lot of updates there. I also have a personal YouTube channel, which I am getting ready to relaunch. I have big plans for that. I've learned a lot from doing video production for LoD, so I think I'm ready to take that step. And if you believe in my work so much that you want to throw money at me, I do have a Ko-fi page, which is at ko-fi.com/Drewniverse minus the U. So DREWNIVERSE. And thank you for being interested in me or the work I've done or the LoD community or any of the other stuff, any of the other things I'm working on, because I do go beyond just the LoD stuff. I have other passions and interests, and maybe you'd like some of those too, like the Hydro Thunder stuff.
Yes.
I have a somewhat newfound interest in audio dramas as well. So
cool.
Hopefully some of that interests you.
Yeah, no problem. It really has been a delight.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's not something I ever thought that I would ever get to do, because like I said, I first came across your name years ago when I was looking into replaying Legend of Dragoon, and there was really no way of doing it because the PS4 port wasn't out, and I didn't really want to emulate it, and it's just your name came up and Severed Chains came up, and I was just like, oh, this seems very interesting, and I never got a chance to get around to it until this podcast. Yeah.
Then it happened.
And a lot has come from it.
Yeah, now you've opened Pandora's box. You got more than you asked for.
Definitely. And there's a lot about this game that I apparently did not know. So I'm probably going to fall down a well doing some research into it. So.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen the interview about the North American commercial?
I have not.
It's some of my most recent work. I did some of the original emails a couple years ago, but it was published just last year, I think. I believe you would really like to know why it turned out the way it did.
Yeah.
So next time you've got a little time to spare, it's a nice 3-part series of 3 different people who worked on that commercial.
Okay. Is it by chance for...
This is on our website.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I will go there and look it up. Yeah.
We have interviews, and here you go. The second one from the bottom is not done, so don't click on the second from the bottom. But the second from the top is the most recent, and you should start there, I think. It's not my usual, because I didn't actually post my questions. I just let them share their entire story unedited.
Okay.
But it's 3 pieces, three different people that explains why it didn't really represent the game very well. It just was FMVs and then a goofy, camera joke.
Gotcha.
But it really gives insight into what can happen in a lot of cases with a lot of games, potentially, where, the budget may not work out, or the people in charge of ordering the commercial, like ordering food, ordering the commercial, may not be as close to the project as they should. Like, don't have a personal, vested interest in it necessarily.
All right.
So definitely give that a look.
I most definitely will. So thank you again for coming on. It really has, again, been a pleasure talking to you and picking your brain on all the things that you do for the community.
I'm glad somebody wants to know.
Yeah. So
maybe we can put you on our community podcast, since we're firing that back up on our side as well.
That would be nice. Because like I said, Adam and we're just 2 gamers who are making our way through our backlog. Mm-hmm. And like I said, Legend of Dragoon was my host pick, and Adam had never played it before, and the Severed Chains came up, and we decided to do it on Severed Chains, and it was truly breathtaking.
Yeah.
So I would love to be a guest on your podcast if
bring him too.
All right. I'll let him know.
It's good to get perspectives from people on like what they think of the game only through the lens of Severed Chains.
Yeah. Well, see, and he is one of the people that has openly stated that he would like to go through and play the original just for comparison. Yeah. Because his very first time playing this game was through Severed Chains.
Yeah. So. Some people have said, like, how did we do it? How did we suffer through it? Given it was the best we had at the time, so obviously, we don't mind or necessarily call that a bad mark on the game. Like, loading was necessary, and we respect that. But like, with all that we can do now, it's a stark contrast. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's all we have to say.
Yeah, that is it. So once again, thank you guys for listening, and look forward to our next episode.
Take care, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.